The invasion. The silent vacuum of space shattered as the Vraxian warfleet emerged from hyperspace, their obsidian vessels blotting out the stars as they approached Earth. Humanity had only discovered interstellar travel 30 years prior, establishing small colonies on Mars and Europa. The United Earth Space Command maintained a modest defense force, sufficient for pirates and smugglers, woefully inadequate for what had just arrived. Supreme Commander Krell of the Vraxian Empire stood on the command deck of the dreadnought Inevitable Conquest, his 4 eyes narrowing as Earth's blue sphere appeared on the viewscreen. 200 worlds had fallen before the Vraxian Armada. Earth would be the 201st. Preliminary scans complete, Supreme Commander reported his second-in-command, Sub-Commander Vex. Primitive kinetic and nuclear weaponry, basic energy shields, no phase displacement technology or quantum weaponry. Standard conquest protocol recommended. Krell's upper mouth formed what passed for a smile among his species. Expected. Send the standard ultimatum. They have 1 planetary rotation to surrender. Then we begin. The message reached Earth's governments simultaneously. Surrender all sovereignty to the Vraxian Empire or face extinction. Emergency sessions convened across the globe as political leaders debated the unthinkable choice, submit or be destroyed. Admiral Helena Chen of the United Earth Space Command stood before the hastily assembled Global Defense Council, her expression grim. We have 108 combat-ready vessels. The Vraxian fleet numbers over 3,000. Their technology is at least 2 generations beyond ours. So surrender is our only option, asked the Chinese premier. Chen's eyes hardened. Surrender means subjugation. The Vraxians are strip miners of worlds. Their conquered species become slave labor. We've intercepted enough of their communications to know this. Then we fight, said the American president. Better to die free than live as slaves. The vote was unanimous. Earth would fight. When the deadline expired, the Vraxian fleet unleashed hell. The first wave of attacks bypassed Earth's orbital defenses, striking major military installations and population centers with surgical precision. Millions died in the opening hours. The UESC fleet engaged bravely but was overwhelmed. By the end of the first day, 70% of Earth's space forces were destroyed. Commander Krell observed the devastation with satisfaction. As expected, prepare landing forces for occupation. This conquest will be completed within 5 planetary rotations. Sub-Commander Vex hesitated. Supreme Commander, we're detecting unusual patterns in the remaining human resistance. They're adapting their tactics. Krell dismissed the concern. Irrelevant. All species showed temporary adaptation before acceptance of defeat. But the humans didn't accept defeat. As the Vraxian ground forces landed to secure strategic locations, they encountered resistance unlike any they had faced before. Humans didn't retreat to regroup. They dispersed, then attacked from all directions. They didn't follow predictable military doctrine. They improvised. When conventional weapons failed against Vraxian armor, humans weaponized their environment in ways the Vraxians couldn't anticipate. In New Delhi, engineers flooded subway tunnels when Vraxian forces moved through them, short-circuiting their advanced armor systems. In Moscow, civilians used industrial chemicals to create compounds that adhered to Vraxian breathing apparatuses. In Rio de Janeiro, a teenage hacker found a way to interfere with Vraxian communications by repurposing satellite TV transmitters. 7 days into what should have been a 5-day conquest, Commander Krell summoned his war council. Explain this anomaly, he demanded. The Vraxian xenobiologist looked uncomfortable. The humans appear to possess unusual neurological plasticity. Supreme Commander, when facing defeat, most species' cognitive functions narrow. Humans expand. They become more creative, more collaborative, more willing to take risks when pushed to extremes. You're suggesting they become more dangerous when losing. Krell's tone was incredulous. Precisely. Their historical records show this pattern repeatedly. They call it backs against the wall psychology. Krell dismissed the council, troubled by this revelation. He ordered an acceleration of the conquest. More troops, more ships, more devastation. The humans would break. They had to. But 3 weeks later, the first Vraxian warship fell. A cobbled-together team of UESC engineers and civilian scientists had reverse-engineered fragments of Vraxian shield technology. They couldn't replicate it, but they discovered its resonance frequency. A modified communications satellite fired a precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulse at a Vraxian cruiser. Its shields collapsed for just 3.7 seconds, enough time for conventional missiles to penetrate its hull. The ship's destruction rippled through the Vraxian command structure. It shouldn't have been possible. Yet it happened. More losses followed. Humans had begun salvaging Vraxian technology from destroyed ground units, incorporating alien tech into their own weapons systems with remarkable speed. What they couldn't understand, they used anyway, through trial and error. Admiral Chen, operating from a hidden bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, coordinated the global resistance. "We don't need to win," she told her remaining officers. "We just need to make victory too costly for them." By the second month, Vraxian casualties had reached unprecedented levels. Never in their 1,000-year history of conquest had they lost so many warriors. Their strategy relied on quick subjugation. A prolonged conflict drained resources needed for controlling their vast empire. Commander Krell faced a decision that no Vraxian Supreme Commander had ever had to make. The conquest of Earth was taking too long, costing too much. And stranger still, with each passing day, the humans were getting stronger, not weaker. The humans had begun to coordinate globally in ways they never had before. Ancient rivalries were set aside. Resources and knowledge flowed freely across borders. The Vraxian invasion had accomplished what centuries of diplomacy could not: a truly unified Earth. Then came the raid that changed everything. A small team of humans somehow infiltrated a Vraxian destroyer, escaping with a functional faster-than-light communications array. Within weeks, humanity had broken the encryption and gained access to the Vraxian military network. For the first time, they could see the full strategic picture and discovered that the force attacking Earth was just one arm of the Vraxian Empire. More importantly, they learned that the Vraxians were already overextended, facing rebellions on multiple fronts. Earth's resistance suddenly gained a strategic dimension. They began targeting Vraxian supply lines, predicting troop movements, and disrupting reinforcement schedules. What had been a desperate defense transformed into an organized counteroffensive. 3 months into the invasion, humanity launched Operation Thunderstrike, a coordinated global attack on all major Vraxian ground bases. The losses on both sides were catastrophic, but the outcome was undeniable. The Vraxians were forced to retreat to their orbital positions. In the war room of the inevitable conquest, Commander Krell faced the unthinkable. "Prepare a withdrawal of ground forces," he ordered, his voice heavy with shame. "We will commence orbital bombardment instead." Sub-Commander Vex hesitated. "Supreme Commander, our intelligence indicates the humans have repurposed 17 of our ground-to-space defense systems. Maintaining orbital position puts our fleet at risk. Are you suggesting we abandon the conquest entirely?" Krell's voice was dangerous. "I am suggesting a strategic retreat to regroup and request reinforcements from the Imperial Corps," Vex replied carefully. Before Krell could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. On the view screen, dozens of small craft were rising from Earth's surface, a motley collection of human shuttles, retrofitted with Vraxian weapons. "Impossible," breathed Krell. "They cannot hope to challenge us in space." But the human vessels weren't attacking the Vraxian fleet directly. Instead, they were targeting a single ship, a supply freighter carrying quantum warheads intended for the orbital bombardment. "Intercept them," Krell commanded, but it was too late. The humans had studied the Vraxian fleet's defense protocols and found the one vulnerability: the momentary shield reconfiguration that occurred when freighters prepared to transfer cargo to warships. The quantum warheads detonated, creating a cascading reaction that disabled 27 Vraxian vessels. In the confusion, human forces struck again, deploying electromagnetic pulses against key command ships, including the inevitable Conquest. As systems failed around him, Commander Krell made the decision that would echo through the Vraxian Empire for generations to come. All ships, emergency withdrawal. Retreat to fallback position Alpha. For the first time in their 1,000-year history of conquest, the Vraxian Empire had failed to subjugate a world. As the Obsidian fleet disappeared into hyperspace, Admiral Chen stood in the ruins of what had once been UESC headquarters in Geneva. The city was devastated, but the planet remained free. "They'll be back," said her XO. "And they'll bring a bigger fleet next time." Chen nodded, watching the stars where the Vraxian ships had been. "Then we'll be ready. We know something now that we didn't know before." "What's that, Admiral?" "That they can bleed too." The Reckoning. The Vraxian High Command received Commander Krell's report with stunned silence. The Great Hall of Conquest on the Imperial throne world of Vrax Prime had never before heard an account of failure. The 9 High Commanders, who collectively ruled the Empire, struggled to comprehend. "You abandoned the conquest because of excessive casualties?" High Commander Zix finally asked, her tone somewhere between confusion and disgust. Krell stood rigidly before them. The human resistance exceeded all predictive models. The resource expenditure required for complete subjugation would have left our borders vulnerable to the Turkorian alliance. "So you fear these humans will seek vengeance?" asked another High Commander. "I fear they already have," replied Krell. "They captured intact FTL communication systems. They've accessed our network. They know where we are vulnerable." The High Command dismissed these concerns. Humans were primitive, barely space-capable. Their resistance on their homeworld was impressive, but ultimately meaningless in the context of an empire spanning hundreds of star systems. This complacency would prove to be the Vraxian Empire's undoing. 6 months after the retreat from Earth, reports came from outlying Vraxian colonies of small, unidentified vessels appearing briefly at the edges of their systems, then vanishing. Scans were inconclusive, but the design signatures didn't match any known species in the galactic catalog. Commander Krell, demoted but still serving, reviewed these reports with growing unease. "They're mapping our territory," he warned his superiors. "They're preparing." Meanwhile, Earth had transformed. The post-invasion planet was a nexus of feverish activity and unprecedented unity. The United Earth government had formed from the ashes of old nations, with Admiral Chen as its first prime director. Research teams worked around the clock, reverse engineering salvaged Vraxian technology. Mining operations on Mars and the asteroid belt expanded exponentially, providing the raw materials for humanity's new objective, a war fleet. "We can't match their numbers or their technological sophistication," Chen told the UEG Council. "But we don't need to. We just need to hit them where it hurts." The first human FTL warship, the UES Defiance, launched 18 months after the Vraxian retreat. It was a hybrid of human and Vraxian technology, less advanced than pure Vraxian vessels, but with innovations the Vraxians had never considered. Human engineers, unfettered by conventional alien design philosophies, created systems that were unpredictable, redundant, and adaptable. By the second year, Earth had a fleet of 30 FTL-capable warships, a tiny force compared to the Vraxian armada, but they weren't built for direct confrontation. They were hunters. The first strike came at Corvus II, a minor Vraxian mining colony. Human ships appeared from FTL, deployed a new weapon, the gravity lance, which created localized distortions in spacetime, and disappeared before the orbital defenses could respond. The mining operation was crippled, its refined ceridium ore floating uselessly in space. Similar strikes followed across the Empire's outer systems. The humans never engaged in prolonged battles. They hit critical infrastructure, freed slave populations when possible, collected intelligence, and vanished. The Vraxian military response was hampered by simultaneous rebellions across their territory. Subject species, hearing of Earth's successful resistance, found new courage. The Vraxians, forced to divide their forces, couldn't effectively counter the human guerrilla tactics. 3 years after the invasion of Earth, the Terran Coalition was formed. Earth had made contact with other species subjugated by the Vraxians, sharing technology and tactical knowledge. What had been a human resistance became a multi-species alliance against Vraxian tyranny. The turning point came at the Battle of Helios Gate, a key Vraxian naval staging area. The Vraxians had set a trap, gathering a force of 200 warships to ambush the humans when they inevitably attacked this strategic target. But when the human fleet arrived, they didn't engage directly. Instead, they deployed thousands of small automated drones, each carrying a miniaturized version of the gravity lance. The Vraxian formations broke apart as localized gravity distortions pulled their ships in multiple directions simultaneously. In the chaos, precision strikes from human vessels disabled key command ships. The battle lasted less than 40 minutes. The Vraxian fleet didn't lose many ships to destruction, but their formation was scattered across the system. The humans departed, leaving behind an encoded message broadcast on all Vraxian frequencies. You came to our home. We now know all of yours. In the following months, the Terran Coalition struck deeper into Vraxian territory. Each success emboldened more rebellions. Each rebellion stretched Vraxian forces thinner. The empire that had expanded unchecked for a millennium was now contracting rapidly. 4 years after their attempted conquest of Earth, the Vraxian High Command faced an unimaginable reality: defeat. Their military was exhausted, their economy strained, their subject populations in open revolt, and the humans were approaching Vrax Prime itself. The final battle never happened. As the Terran Coalition fleet prepared to enter the Vraxian home system, a transmission arrived from the High Command. They were offering surrender. Admiral Chen, now Fleet Admiral of the Coalition, stood on the bridge of the UES Humanity's Resolve as the terms were received. They're offering complete withdrawal from all conquered territories, reparations, and a non-aggression pact, reported her communications officer. Chen studied the holographic display showing the Vraxian home system. One word from her, and humanity could do to the Vraxians what they had intended to do to Earth. The temptation hung heavy in the air. Transmit our response, she finally said. We accept their surrender and the proposed terms, with one addition. The Vraxian Empire will be disarmed. They may maintain a defense force sufficient only to protect their homeworld. Nothing more. The Vraxian surrender was signed in orbit around Vrax Prime. As the ceremony concluded, High Commander Zix approached Chen privately. There is one thing I must know, said the Vraxian leader. You could have destroyed us completely. Why didn't you? Chen looked at the alien creature, so physically different from humans, yet driven by the same fundamental desires for power and security. Because that's what you would have done. And proving we're different from you was the point of this war. News of the Vraxian defeat spread rapidly across the galaxy. Species that had never encountered humans before suddenly found